Yo, this right here is straight up insanity. Just when we thought we'd seen it all in the love and hip-hop universe, new receipts just dropped that are shaking everything up. Chrissy Lampkin and Mendeecees' toxic connection has finally been exposed, and trust me, this tea is piping hot. Let's break down what's really happening behind the scenes. How did these two even get tangled up in this web of drama, betrayal, and straight-up messiness? And why is Yandy losing her mind over it? Something ain't right, and we've got the facts to prove it. We're talking leaked messages, secret meetups, and whispers about a connection so shady that even the most die-hard fans are shocked. Was this the ultimate betrayal? Was this planned all along? Grab your popcorn, because by the end of this deep dive, you'll never look at Chrissy and Mendeecees the same way again. So, who are the players? Chrissy Lampkin, the no-nonsense, say-it-like-it-is queen from Love and Hip Hop, and Mendeecees Harris, Mr. I've changed but somehow always in the middle of some drama. But what if I told you these two have way more history than they're letting on? Evidence ties them together in ways we never saw coming, and let's just say it ain't pretty. First things first, how do Chrissy and Mendeecees even know each other? These two never really crossed paths on camera like that, but behind the scenes, totally different story. See, back in the day, before Mendeecees even linked up with Yandy Smith, he was moving in circles way too close to Chrissy's world. We're talking late night business dealings, mutual friends, and let's just say favors being exchanged. Remember when Chrissy and Jim Jones were dealing with all that financial drama? Rumors were flying that money was being moved in ways that weren't exactly legal. Now sources are saying, guess who was in the mix helping make those transactions disappear? Yep, Mendeecees himself. And wait, it gets worse. Chrissy and Jim always had a roller coaster relationship, right? We've seen her propose to this man on national TV just for him to keep dodging marriage for over a decade. But what if that wasn't just Jim being Jim? What if there was another reason Jim was acting funny? A reason involving someone with a history of creeping where he shouldn't be? Y'all follow me here? Word on the street is Chrissy and Mendeecees' connection ain't just about money. Sources are saying there were whispers about late-night meetups, low-key rendezvous, and some seriously suspicious activity between the two. An anonymous source close to the situation recently spilled shocking details about a time when Jim Jones was out of town for a few weeks. And guess who was conveniently spotted slipping in and out of Chrissy's old condo? That's right, Mendeecees. Before y'all say, oh, maybe he was just handling business, explain why these meetings were happening late at night, explain why no one was supposed to know about them, and let's talk about these so-called business deals. Because when it comes to Mendeecees, business always got a little extra involved, if you know what I mean. The wildest part, when Yandy got wind of this, she lost it. Y'all know Yandy doesn't play when it comes to her man. She'll defend Mendeecees through anything, but even she couldn't ignore the red flags when this story started making rounds. Sources say Yandy confronted Mendeecees about his connection to Chrissy, and it did not go well. She started asking questions he couldn't answer and bringing up receipts he thought were buried. The more she dug, the more things weren't adding up. And here's where things take a turn. Mendeecees didn't deny nothing outright. Instead, he pulled the classic, why you bringing up old stuff, move. He told Yandy she was tripping, that it wasn't what she thought, that people just love to talk. But when Yandy pressed him about those late night visits and the timing of certain transactions, he didn't say she was wrong. He just got real quiet. And if there's one thing we all know about men who get quiet when they're getting pressed, it's that something is up. Let's not forget that Chrissy and Yandy been beefing for years. Back in the day, Chrissy made it crystal clear she didn't respect Yandy, called her messy, disrespectful, even accused her of trying to control Jim's career. So now, finding out Chrissy and Mendeecees might have been moving shady behind her back, oh, you know Yandy was ready to go off. And that's exactly what she did. Yandy wasn't about to just let this slide. Nope, she pulled up with receipts, energy, and all the smoke. From what we're hearing, Chrissy was not ready for what happened next. Picture this scene, private event, exclusive guest list, cameras rolling. Yandy walks in with that dangerous She walks straight up to Chrissy, looks her dead in the eye and says, so how long you been messing with my husband? Baby, the silence in that room, you could hear a pin drop. Chrissy was shook. She tried to laugh it off, saying Yandy was doing too much, but Yandy wasn't having it. She pulled out screenshots of transactions, texts that seemed way too cozy for just business. When Chrissy tried to brush it off, Yandy dropped the real bombshell. I got someone who saw you together and they're ready to talk. Chrissy froze. For the first time, the woman who was always ready with a comeback, always 10 steps ahead, looked like she'd been caught completely off guard. Yandy wasn't playing. She had screenshots, timestamps, and most importantly, someone who had seen it all. Now, y'all already know how Chrissy gets when she's backed into a corner. She don't fold easy. So what does she do? She laughs dead in Yandy's face, like this whole thing was a joke. Girl, you must be real bored to be making up stories like this. But Yandy didn't flinch. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and said, "You might want to hear what this person has to say before you start laughing too hard." That's when the real chaos started. The whole room went silent. Chrissy's expression changed, just for a second, but Yandy caught it, that little flicker of nervousness. And that's all Yandy needed. Let's talk about this mystery witness. Who is this person, and how did they have firsthand knowledge of Chrissy and Mendeecees' so-called business? The person in question, none other than an ex-associate of Mendeecees, someone who used to handle certain transactions for him. Let's call him Dre. Dre had been around Mendeecees for years. He knew how Mendeecees operated, who he met up with, where he moved his money, and most importantly, who he was spending time with when he wasn't with Yandy. And guess what? Dre had receipts. At this point, Chrissy was still trying to act unbothered, sipping her drink like nothing Yandy was saying mattered. But then Yandy hit play on the voice recording, and baby, the whole room lost it, because clear as day, you could hear Dre talking about how he personally drove Mendeecees to Chrissy's spot multiple times, how Mendeecees would tell him, "Keep this low key, I don't need no extra eyes on me," and the part that really sent shockwaves, Dre straight up said, "Mendeecees told me himself, Chrissy got something over him. That's why he keep going back." The tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Chrissy's face went from smug to stone cold. But Yandy, oh, she was loving this. She leaned in and said, "You want to keep laughing now, or should I keep going?" That's when Chrissy snapped. She stood up so fast her drink spilled. She got right in Yandy's face, pointing her finger like she was ready to throw hands. "You really think I gotta explain myself to you over some fake-ass recording? You reaching, Yandy, and it's embarrassing." But Yandy wasn't just talking, she had evidence. She pulled up a text thread that had been forwarded from an anonymous source between Mendeecees and Chrissy. It wasn't anything outright romantic, but the wording, suspicious as hell. Things like, "Mendeecees, you sure everything good? Ain't nobody asking questions, right?" Chrissy, "Nah, you know I got this. Just keep handling what you need to handle. I ain't worried about nothing long as you keep your end tight. Now tell me, does that sound like just business to you?" And let's not forget, Jim Jones and Mendeecees had never been cool like that. So why was Mendeecees handling anything for Chrissy unless there was more to it? At this point, Chrissy was pissed. She turned to the crowd, shaking her head like Yandy was crazy. "Y'all really believe this nonsense for real?" But guess what? Not everybody was defending her. Some people in the room were looking at her funny, some were whispering, and you know how it is. Once doubt creeps in, it spreads fast. That's when Yandy hit her with the final blow. "If it's all lies, Chrissy, why you look so uncomfortable right now?" Boom. Chrissy was done. She grabbed her purse, rolled her eyes, and stormed out. And y'all already know what happened next. The internet went crazy. Clips of the confrontation leaked within hours, blogs picked it up, Twitter was in shambles, and now people were starting to ask real questions. Was there truth to this? Here's the thing. Mendeecees ain't addressed nothing. He didn't deny it, didn't try to clear his name, just stayed quiet. And if we know one thing about Mendeecees, it's that he loves to defend himself. So why wasn't he saying anything now, unless he knew he couldn't? At this point, Yandy was done with him. She took her kids, left the house, and according to sources, stopped answering his calls. This ain't just a petty argument. If what Yandy was saying was true, that means Mendeecees been lying to her for years, and it also means Chrissy been moving sneaky this whole time. Let's not forget the biggest question of all. What exactly does Chrissy have over Mendeecees? Remember, Dre said Mendeecees told him she got something on him. That's the part that got everybody shook. What could Chrissy possibly know that has Mendeecees still playing by her rule? And why hasn't Jim said a word about any of this? After the confrontation with Yandy, Chrissy dipped out so fast you'd think she was being chased, and Mendeecees still radio silent. When you don't defend yourself, people start making up their own stories, and baby, the theories started flying. First, people thought maybe Mendeecees and Chrissy had an old relationship that Yandy didn't know about. Like maybe before Jim, before Yandy, something was going on between them. But that theory didn't stick for long because new tea started spilling. A so-called industry insider, someone who claims to have been around for years, came forward with information that changed the entire narrative. According to them, Mendeecees allegedly did some business back in the day that wasn't exactly legal. Now, we all know Mendeecees already did time for drug trafficking, that's public knowledge, but apparently there's more to that story than we knew. According to this insider, Chrissy was actually connected to some of the same people Mendeecees was dealing with. And not just as an outsider, she was involved. If that's true, then this whole thing takes a completely different turn. This ain't just about sneaky text messages and secret meetups. This is about Chrissy having real legal leverage over Mendeecees. That's why he can't cut ties with her, because if he does, she might just start talking, and Mendeecees cannot afford that. Let's rewind a little bit. Apparently, back in the early 2000s, before Mendeecees got locked up, he and Chrissy crossed paths in a way nobody expected. Chrissy has always been deep in the streets. Y'all remember she was moving with some real power players back in the day? Sources say she knew a little too much about certain people's operations, including Mendeecees. When he got locked up the first time, he probably thought he was leaving all that behind. But Chrissy didn't forget, and more importantly, she kept receipts. According to the insider, Chrissy's got information that could put Mendeecees in serious trouble, and that's why he can't ever fully walk away from her. He owes her, and apparently she never lets him forget it. People started putting pieces together and realized this ain't the first time Chrissy used information as leverage. Back in the day, Chrissy wasn't just Jim Jones's girl. She was in the mix with some of the biggest names in hip-hop. Let's just say she knew things that people didn't want getting out, and that's why she was able to move the way she did. People weren't going to cross her because if they did, she'd start talking. Now it looks like Mendeecees is just another person caught in her web. Here's where it gets even messier. Jim Jones ain't said nothing. Not a tweet, not a statement, nothing. And let's be real, Jim ain't the type to hold his tongue. So why is he suddenly acting like he don't see what's happening? Some people are saying he already knew about Chrissy and Mendeecees' arrangement, and maybe he don't want no smoke. Think about it. If Chrissy's got dirt on Mendeecees, who's to say she don't got dirt on Jim too? That's why he's keeping quiet. What's Yandy doing while all this is going down? Last we checked, she left. She took the kids, packed her bags, and dipped. Can you blame her? After everything she's been through with Mendeecees, this was probably the last straw. If the rumors are true, then Yandy just dodged a bullet, because if Chrissy's been holding something over Mendeecees for years, who's to say this drama ain't gonna come back to bite him later? At this point, the damage is already done. Chrissy's reputation ain't never been the cleanest, and this just adds more fuel to the fire. Mendeecees now has to answer some serious questions, and Yandy might have just saved herself from an even bigger disaster. But here's the real question. Is Chrissy going to start talking? If she really does have dirt on Mendeecees, what's stopping her from exposing it? Or what if she already has? What if that leaked text thread was just the beginning? What if Chrissy is about to air everything out and leave Mendeecees with no way out? This story ain't over, and when the next piece of tea drops, we'll be right here to break it all down. Do y'all think Chrissy is really holding something over Mendeecees, or is this just another case of messy industry drama? Whose side are y'all on? Drop your thoughts, because this story is only going to get wilder.